Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Hey everybody, welcome back out to a Friday at Giga-Texas. As you can see by the sky, it's been a lot of rain, a lot of mist today, and I was able to fly through it and we were able to see some very interesting things. But this is the first day that we've had this kind of weather in a very long time. Now, a couple of things that I want to talk about before I show you what some highlights for the flight today. First, as you can see by this short video clip, on my previous video, I saw all of these tires and wheels being arranged in the outbound lot, and I was trying to figure out what it was. And I've been told by some good sources that Tesla offers some blemished and excess materials like this to employees periodically. And they were offering these tires and wheels at a steep discount for the employees, which is really cool that Tesla does that. The other thing that I want to talk about briefly is that west main entrance, that kind of that shiny material that they've been placing on that trapezoidal section. Well, I was given some information by one of my viewers on YouTube, and I really do appreciate the heads up. This is something called Stone Glass, and it's a company from Italy. And as you can see from a few of these excerpts from their video, they kind of show you how this man-made substance is made, and it's very strong, it's non-porous, which means that it's got a lot of better capabilities than granite would have. And also, as you can see by this portion of the video, they already have Tesla as a client, specifically Giga Nevada, for that same treatment on their main entrance. So this stone glass is the same material that we're going to see over at Giga Nevada in pretty much the same configuration. So it's pretty interesting to be able to give you some of that information and figure out what it is that they're installing here. So a couple of things for the flight to take a look at that is new. First, on the southeast corner over at stamping is more of the windows that are now being removed, as you can see by this set of images. Now, they are removing the windows, putting them on the racks, and then immediately putting up a framed structure to replace the windows, and then they're putting some of that blue temporary material in to fill in the gaps. So this continues the trend on the south end, preparing for construction. Speaking of which, as you can see by this image, the continuous flight augers have now moved back over towards the base of the building again, over by the wall, and they're doing more of those reinforced pile-driven piers, again, preparing for more construction. So a lot of activity there. The last area that I want to talk about is actually right behind me here. As you can see, there's some very interesting deliveries that are being made to the north end of the factory, specifically large crates that are being moved into the 4680 battery cell production portion of the factory, and also some very large equipment that is wrapped in white plastic, and this is all going into the plastics manufacturing section of the facility. So pretty interesting to see the amount of deliveries that continue. Oh, one other thing that I was given a tip on is right now the power is being shut off inside Giga-Texas, and that's because they're doing some work up at the electrical switchyard and preparing for the changeover for the power from that news facility to power Giga-Texas. So pretty interesting information I learned just before I started doing this intro. So otherwise, there's a lot more to see. We'll talk about during the video as well. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great weekend. Take care.
Thank you to my Patreon members and ex-subscribers. Members and subscribers gain access to hundreds of high-resolution images, previews of future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, good morning to a pretty misty, rainy Much cooler Giga-Texas today. And as you can see for the south end, there's a lot of changes that are going on despite the weather. The biggest one that is noticeable is that southeast corner where the windows are coming off, and we'll get a closer look at that here in just a few minutes. But this is also a good look at the south end, just south of the Cyber Pond, the new River Road paved 2 lanes, and you can tell that it is now in operation. And they continue to do some of the clear out just to the south of that road as well. There's no materials, and again, I think they're getting ready to remove those lower level power lines. You can also tell that there's quite a bit of deliveries today. We'll see that trend all throughout the site. There was a truck that just passed. Here's another one bringing a large item, and many more coming to multiple parts of the factory. And again, we'll get a chance to see much of that later in the video. But here, as I follow along the River Road extension with the newly paved lanes, this gives you a good sense of what this looks like today. There's yet another delivery coming in with that red truck, and then the truck following it. Also, this is a good view of the work that's going on for some of the electrical near that tall pole and some of those power lines. And then here, the rebar cages getting ready for these footings that eventually we'll start seeing being installed. Some equipment here on the right-hand side of the screen with some shrouds in white, and waiting for some of that is movement inside and assembly. More of these white items here, which look like maybe parts of platforms perhaps for some of the assembly lines. And more equipment has been delivered on the east side of the building as well. And then here's a good close-in view of the window removal. You can see that they removed the windows. They put them on the racks at the bottom of the screen, and then those are moved off to some of the material staging yards for safekeeping. In addition, they have these frames already pre-made. You can see one of them on the ground. As soon as the windows are out, they put those in, and then they put those blue wall panels on as a temporary means of closing off the structure. As we come around the building, you can tell that the south end is kind of being cleared out. Just some materials here on the ground level waiting to be installed. Most of those yellow panels that you can start seeing being installed around here. They have the steel studs and the frames pretty much done, and it looks like they are preparing that roof structure, most likely so that they can put some of that weatherproof membrane. I think that they must think this is going to be here for some time in this form. In addition to that, we can see the last section getting ready for more of those steel studs and the wall panels. And here's a really good view inside, zoomed in. Many of those rack mounts, they may be for Cybertruck castings, or some people think that they may be for some stamped parts. I'm not really sure. Here's a even further in zoom so you get a kind of a sense of what they look like and how this section is continuing to be transformed. It has been cleaned up quite a bit, and the ground slab has been cleaned, and we can see that it's all in concrete now, which is great so that we don't have all that dirt anymore on that ground level. Here we see the continuous flight auger pile drilling system in operation. The concrete trucks bringing the concrete. It's being pumped into the bore that's been drilled. Here's a good close-in view of how this looks. You can see that small bobcat doing some cleanup. And then next to it is that large rebar cage that once the bore is filled with the concrete, that cage is pressed in and it makes another one of those reinforced piles. As I pull away, this gives you a sense of where that drilling operation is underway, how the south end of the building looks with those yellow temporary panels on this southwest corner, and some of the other materials and deliveries on this side. Also, there's some of those windows on those rack mounts again. Those are getting ready to be moved over to the far west side for safekeeping. I'm taking a look at these dumpsters just to give you an idea of some of the materials that are coming out. Looks like some ductwork and some other items, but it also looks like there may have been some cutout concrete sections or maybe forms for concrete in that one dumpster as well. Gives you a sense of what's going on just inside these walls. As mentioned, plenty of deliveries. Here's some interesting ones here with kind of these, I don't know, rack mounts and plastic covered items. More coming into that truck, and then of course the large crates that are being delivered by that red cabbed truck as well. And all of this arrives and is pretty quickly picked up and moved inside the building for installation. As we fly towards the north along the west side, we can get a sense that many of these carts are still here, but there are somewhat less of them. So we're beginning to see these being moved back inside the factory as well. So maybe they needed the space, maybe they are finishing the assembly of where these will be used. It's really hard to tell for sure. More equipment here again for the assembly lines. Many of these packages, some of them are listed as General Assembly 2 because we know that there's General Assembly lines 2 and 3 being built right inside this portion. And then some of them have Chinese characters as well. So if you happen to be able to read that, let me know what it says in the comment section. I would appreciate that. Again, more materials here. And then the big news is that the work on the lighting system progresses on the main entrance. All of the stainless steel has been installed. The LED lights are being installed by these workers with the man lift, and I'll give you a close-in view of how that operation is going. And we also know that the black material being put on the trapezoid is that stone glass material, and that design and the material will be shared with Giga Nevada as well. And hopefully the information we talked about in the intro was helpful, especially for those worried about its porosity with the water. That stone glass has good resistance to that. The conduit here, it looks like they have finished most of it through this trench into the halfway through the road, and it's got that red concrete poured on it. And then here is where I believe it's going to eventually go underneath the road over to the horizontal drilling operation that you see going on here on this side of the road. I'll bring the drone down a little lower so you can get a good sense of what's going on. You can see the horizontal drill directly in front of us. Some of the other support equipment is necessary for doing the bore. We see those long pipes, that's part of the drilling system. And then here we see the large HDPE, the high density polyethylene pipes. One of them getting fuse welded right now by that machine. And when they do that, they connect the segments and they make long sections of the pipe, which is then pulled through the bore underneath, in this case, the highway once that's completed. Here's a good look at some of the materials still waiting for assembly on this side of the outbound lot. Much of it has been installed now on the end-of-line facility. And as we get a little closer, you can get a good sense of just how the steel structure has really progressed on both sides now of the slab. And it's, I don't know, about 60% of the length of the entire structure has got that steel on. You can see where that concrete is. They're putting more of the beams and columns. And then at the south end, I think they're going to have to wait for it to dry a little bit, and then they can get the moisture barrier, the forms, the rebar, and then get concrete in. Also, you can see more of the earthwork is happening just to the south of the facility as well. And here's a good view of that south end. Some of the trenching that still needs to be filled in, but the rest of it is completed. All the plumbing and the footings have been installed. Here's a good view from the south looking to the north. You can see that some of the slab has already been cross-cut, and that is great to see as well. Plus all of the steel assembly that, as you can tell, continues to progress here, even on the east side of the building. So it's really starting to shape up really quickly. As we fly up further to the north, you can see more of the steel corrugated pipe on the left for the water management system that is being installed right now throughout the length of this west side. And then this material staging location is also very busy, and you can see some of the windows being stored here from that southwest side. And as we continue to the north, you can see how the road work is continuing to progress towards Tesla Road. On the left-hand side with all of the steel items, and you can see the workshop on the left. This is a welding workshop. Actually, some of the welding is underway right now. This is where they do some of the modifications and adjustments to the steel items as necessary for the construction on the structure. With all of this steel, it makes me just wonder again where this is going to go. Maybe this is part of that south end construction site, and we'll have to keep monitoring that. The Tesla Road extension continues. You can see how that looks up towards Farm to Market 973. Also how this kind of a turn lane section near around where these medians are, and then of course the road heading to the south along the west side, serving this entire section and giving a secondary entrance to where that end-of-line facility and the outbound lot is located. As we cross back over to the east side of the site, we can see that there are some landscapers at work here next to the cyber berms today. Also, despite the mist and rain, we see that there's a lot of deliveries today on the north end as well. This is more of these large boxes. We've seen some of these delivered previously. This is all going into the 4680 battery cell production portion of the factory as they continue to increase the production capability here. Those two open doors are part of the plastics manufacturing section. And here we see deliveries being made of these items. They look sort of like tanks, but they do have that white plastic wrap on them. We'll see two more of these trucks arriving later in the video. They will eventually come over here, and all of this is being offloaded and being moved into the plastics manufacturing shop. Here's a close-in look just so you can get an idea of what the markings are. I'm not really sure what those indicate, but if you happen to know, again, let me know in the comments. I would very much appreciate that. So as we zoom back out, I'll proceed over towards the northeast corner of the casting machine structure. One of the things that we notice right off the bat is the fire water loop section here. Looks like it's been completed, at least the work underground, and they're filling it in and getting ready for the concrete to be repoured. On the corner of the building, we see more of the steel items being stored on the ground. Some of the containers here on the right-hand side of the screen. I'll get in close and zoom in. These are marked with Everest. That's project code for the Cybertruck, and there's actually a Giga-casting in here for a Cybertruck as well, as you can see. So here's a good close-in view of what that looks like. While I'm here also, I'll keep it on zoom. I will give you a view near the east side corner where the doors are opening, and we can see that all of those kiln blocks have been moved inside, which means that the furnace is definitely coming along with its installation, and the company Elite Refractory Services is doing all of that work. And then it's just a good view along the east side of the building today. As I bring the drone back up, I want to give you a view of the ducted fan installation that is going on. Now, I've mentioned that I think this is a ventilation system, and I think that is definitely true, but what is it for particularly is still unclear. I do have some viewers who think that this is actually related more towards a structure being built near the paint shop on the inside of casting versus the furnace. I can't really say for sure. I do know that this is a much increased ventilation system that they are definitely installing in the casting machine structure area. Passing the roundabout, we get to the testing and calibration lot, and you can tell that it's quite empty. There's just a handful of vehicles that are incomplete at the bottom of the screen, very few being supercharged right now. With the rain, we can see the sedimentation basin, just how much water has been collected so far. And then the multi-level garage construction site looks like a lot of mud, to be honest with you. We're kind of entering into that season again. So it looks like work, for the most part, is not really progressing on this side right now. You can see how the new channels for the water are operational with all the rainwater as well. Now, we do see some work here next to this corner of the road, and it looks like they continue to install more of these concrete pipes and then filling it in with the gravel mix. And then I would expect some dirt. This may be a bridge for roadway at some point, extending the road perhaps on the left-hand side of the screen. The outbound lot is completely empty. On the left, all of the end-of-line tents have now been removed. We saw that starting to happen on my previous video. All of the travel trailer trucks for the movement of the vehicles are idle today. And what few Model Ys there are have been moved over to this portion of the outbound lot and stored. Some of these may have been incomplete, that they have finished up over the last several days, and they may have been the ones that were over in that testing and calibration lot. As I mentioned, 2 more trucks arriving with these shrink-wrapped items that are eventually going to be showing up at the plastics manufacturing. I'll follow them around for a short period of time. At first, it looks like they may be going to the battery cathode structure, but they continue their path around the entire site, and I did see them later on over at the plastics manufacturing section. Here are the 3 trees that were transplanted away from where the old house used to be, and that is coming up here on the right-hand side of the screen. We can also see that there's more earthwork going on here. The rest of the vegetation has been removed as well, and it looks like they may be starting to do excavation of dirt here to start lowering this grade or making the grade overall level with where the parked cars are. As we approach towards the battery cathode plant, at this point I realize that these items on the trucks, we're not going to be stopping here, so they continue off towards the south end of the site while we'll look at the battery cathode plant. Now, a couple of things that I want to show you besides these hoppers or the cyclones on the ground getting ready for installation. Here's a good opportunity to look inside the second floor area where I believe that these are going to be moved in the near future and installed. And right now it's, for the most part, a empty room. There are mounts that are already built into the slab for the second floor. We saw that when this building was first being constructed, and it looks like those are for those hoppers or cyclones once they are moved inside. Few other things to note, just the activity level here on the east side of the battery cathode plant, some views into that large open area where those 7-story tall assembled platforms with the equipment were installed. All the materials and equipment here between the crash test lab and the battery cathode plant. But also with this close-in view, you can now see that the brown crash wall has been installed. Immediately in front of that is the pit where the cameras and the sensors will be. Looks like they are also doing some other work to get ready to maybe do a first test with this in the near future. We also see some of those concrete blocks have been brought in at that south end as well. There's also some work on, looks like, preparing for pavement around this area. The Cybertrucks are still waiting here under cover, possibly to be used for testing in the cell test lab itself. And also you can see that kind of paved section now being prepared to help improve the area and hopefully not have so much mud all over the place, which, as you can see with all the rains, we're starting to return to the mud Giga-Texas time of the year again. As I turn the drone back around, you can get a good sense of the battery cathode plant, the die shop, and also in the background the main factory shrouded in the mist. One of the things I did notice on the north end of the building, you can see the rails have now been installed on those kind of retaining walls around where the concrete apron is for the receiving doors, and also the vaults. On here on the right hand side of the screen, I continue to wait for further work. The stainless steel corrugated pipes are slowly being installed. We see some of that work here on the left hand side of the screen, and again you can see this large pool of water here. This continues to be something that the crews have been dealing with over the last year and a half as this site has been under construction. As we approach the chiller plant, this is a good view of just how it is looking today. Continued work on the Evapco fan units and other items on the ceiling or the roof section. And then here at the corner of the die shop, last time we saw it being excavated, now it looks like there's formwork and it may be another concrete pad of some sort being installed. This is a good view of another workshop. This is where they do modifications to these steel pipes. You can see some of that underway right now underneath the tents and some of the pipes waiting for further work. The berm here has been widened next to the Martin Marietta batch plant, and by turning back this way you can kind of get a sense of how much wider it is and what this side of the building looks like. Now there are a few things I want to show you of interest. One, the windows here where you see all the scaffolding. I pretty sure that it is windows, one of which you can see the delivery here of the windows underneath the blue tarps getting ready for installation. And two, if you recall, back in January, I did show you a rendering of this building, and it showed that there were going to be windows in here. So the idea is that there was going to be grates. I don't think is the case, but we'll watch and see to be absolutely sure. So more work on some of the conduits and those concrete vaults. And then here is the old house complex, and you can again see the earthwork that's going on, the vegetation that's been removed, and preparation for just grading out this entire area. So let's proceed up to the switchyard, where there is some interesting activity today. Here's a close-in view of the underground vault, the two trailers that are kind of control rooms. You can actually see now a covered access port right in the middle of the screen on top of the vault. Looks like on the left, those orange devices, those are to have the spools of the cable, some of which you see at the bottom of the screen, rolled out to be put into the conduit. And overall, just a lot of work here on this side. You can actually see there's some fans that are working in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And as I mentioned, the factory itself has had the power shut off as they're doing some work here at the main and new electrical switchyard. In addition, on the north end of the Megapack site, we can see the electrical conduit in the trenches continues to be installed, but actually it looks like with the concrete being poured, is that work, at least near where the radius turns are, where all the workers are, is at a point where it's pretty much completed as far as the placement of all of these conduit. And this is really making sure that these don't move with this concrete being poured. And on the left, you can see one of those trenches that has the concrete already poured. I think they're just waiting for a concrete truck to arrive to let the pump truck be able to continue to pour the cement or the concrete into these trenches. But this is a good overall view of how this looks today on the north end, and some of the other items on the north end as well, including that very large transformer and that catchment basin that has had all the concrete poured. We also see more of those spools of wire on the left, indicating more and more of the wires have been installed. And as I mentioned, with the power out, they are really working on the electricity now. And with all of the changes inside of the factory and all of the new equipment that's been installed as well, having a much more robust electrical system and switchyard is vital to allow the production to resume and for the ramping to increase. We can see more of the conduit being installed here, going up towards and then taking a 90-degree turn by Tesla Road. So again, a lot of electrical work going on here at the factory today. And as you can see by kind of the gloom and doom, a lot of rain, a lot of mist as well. But otherwise, a lot of very interesting things to see, and I hope that you enjoyed what we saw and talked about. As always, thank you very much for your support, and I hope you have a great weekend. Take care.